All right, founders, I'm going to show you in this video an idea validation deck for a startup in my portfolio of ventures. And I'm using this as a personal example to show how I validate or invalidate, basically put out an idea validation pitch deck to determine whether I'm going to move forward with one of my startups or not. Let me give you some background. I have been doing customer discovery on this. It will be a fintech. I've been doing customer discovery, talking with my ideal customers or ideal users, my target market, extensively for the last bunch of months. In fact, I've been muddling over this problem for years now, but I got serious about doing customer discovery, asking their pain points and just discussing. And then before I spend a single dime on coding, on incorporation, on anything, I create an idea validation deck, which acts as a pitch deck. I'm looking for a few things. What you are going to see is probably the fourth iteration. I spent, I go week by week. So if you watch some of my other videos, I do things 1 week at a time in 1 week cycles. So I pitched a week ago, I pitched 2 weeks ago, and went back and forth. And every time I come back with a refinement. So I'm on my third refinement. My goal is to get it to the point where I can just send this to someone and then say, what'd you think? And they can get it or not and give me feedback. That I do not have to be present pitching that this idea validation deck stands on its own, because I don't have the time or the mental energy to continue to pitch. And this way you can find out whether or not you're actually validating your idea, whether you're communicating clear enough if you don't have to be there to add context and handle questions and all that stuff. So I've been testing it back and forth and sending it to people. I've also been sending it to advisors that I want, potential advisors that I want them to join the team. So I'm getting expert validation as well. So let me jump into it. I'll show how I break down an idea validation deck. And again, it's all about doing all this upfront before I spend a single dime building anything. Because I know, like I had a founder tell me today, Ed, the fun part is the building part. I go, yeah, but what if you build something that nobody likes or wants? That's not fun at all. I hate wasting time. So here's what it looks like. So I got the title, and right away I'm going to do the title. You know, the few wealth club stands for financial health and emotional wealth. So all I do is a very straightforward, this is what our startup does. So this is your sort of elevator pitch. So if I'm saying an elevator, they go, what are you building? I say, well, I'm building a startup that helps everyday Canadians achieve financial health and emotional wealth. It's just straightforward, leads to another conversation, and there you have it. So I don't have hyperbolic statements. I get rid of the marketing fluff. It's just very straightforward. This is what the startup does. So that's my title page. Next is I have problem slide, and I just succinct. And I broke this down. I kind of separated out. I have this space here because I want to highlight a certain thing, but the problem statement for me, the best ones, clearly identify the severity of pain, or as Will Schroeder talks about, CEO of startups.com, the consequences, the severity of consequences if we don't solve this problem. So we say, I look this up, 1 in every 2 Canadians lives paycheck to paycheck, with 82% saying their debt has increased. 42% say it's overwhelming from last year. Now there's there's 2 personas I'm looking at. One is the individual potential user, and I want them to go, yeah, I live paycheck to paycheck and my debt is overwhelming. My debt has increased from last year. And then I want potential financial partners or advisors to say, yeah, I can see that. That's a major problem. I can resonate with that problem. And I'm looking for investors, financial partners, advisors that resonate with the problem. And that's important. They have to care about this problem. So I'm really drawing a line in the sand on whether or not they care about this problem or not. But now I'm going to add this statement here and say this problem is as much emotional as it is financial. Now, notice a few things. This deck is black and white, and it is nothing but text. No pictures or, anything like that. I don't have time. And, founders that go in and they start designing things and getting artwork. What happens if your deck changes? Like my deck has changed 3 times in the last 3 weeks. So I don't want to spend any extra time just being super efficient. If it can't work in black and white text, it's not going to work at all anyway. Going back to this statement, I want to create a novel insight. And I want them to think, okay, wait a second. It's going to set us apart because anybody can come up with this problem and people can go out and solve it. There are companies that do this. I've done research. There are tons of companies that want to help with financial literacy and getting Canadians out of debt. But I'm adding this. This is starting to get to a differentiation or a special sauce. So I'm saying the problem is as much emotional as it is financial. Problem slide. Solution slide. Few provides microloans from financial partners to help Canadians save, invest, and reduce debt through a unique combination of financial literacy and emotional skills training. The key here is that your solution side is the opposite of the problem slide, right? So notice how I've made sure I've addressed all the different things in my problem slide. So let's go back and forth here. And that's the key to having good problem solution slides. So we got everybody's living paycheck to paycheck and their debt's increased, right? And it's overwhelming. And the problem is emotional as much as financial. Well, we're helping Canadians save, invest, get out of debt through a unique combination of financial literacy and emotional skills training. So I've addressed all the points in the problem slide. So your solution needs to, work. It needs to be completely aligned with your problem slide. So it's just straightforward. So now there's so much going on here in terms of I've got lots of things I want to explain, but I just want to be very straightforward. Micro loan to get people out of debt through saving, investing, and it includes financial literacy and emotional skills training, right? It's different. And again, I'm highlighting financial literacy and emotional skills training. That's what I'm doing. And the reason I do that is I'm setting it all up for the novel and unique insight that we've got, the special sauce. Now, this is, a TAM slide, okay? And now, the TAM slide, this is different than a pitch deck. Remember, I'm doing an idea validation deck. So it's like an elevator pitch. But I want to show how big this problem is. So it's not just in Canada. So I'm looking at investors or I'm looking at potential end users. They're going to think I'm not alone, right? So Canadians aren't the only ones feeling emotional about their finances. 77% Americans feel anxious, 58%, 52% difficulty, right? So now I'm establishing the market. So the TAM slide is, look how big this market is. Look how big this problem is. If we can solve it, this is going to be worth billions of dollars. So that's the TAM. Next, how it works. This current version is a little stronger or more detailed than what you normally have. But after I was testing it out, all the questions that got back to me, I kind of had to add a little more meat on the bones, if you will. And so it's just straightforward. I tried to explain it step by step. So I just have 5 steps and, a couple sentences right there. I'm not going to get into it, but the next slide is how it works. And then I got feedback and they were like, a lot of people would just be like saying, okay, if I had $100 and 10 people did that, what have you. So what I did is I added and I said, here's an example with numbers. And so I just repeated that slide and I fleshed it out so someone could actually envision themselves with, money at play here doing business, right? And, it's just straightforward, and the language is super clear. And so I added 2 how it works slides. And you want to make this as simple as possible. Like if you can get this down to like 5 sentences, right? Customer downloads the app, opens the app, presses the button, magic, their lives are better, something along those lines. But, this is a little more complicated because it's a financial model. So I had to add these slides. And again, these slides are happening because I've gotten feedback. So I'm listening and I'm paying attention to the questions and the times when people say, I don't get it, right? And I'm explaining. So I literally got feedback from, people that I think are ideal. Let me go back. It's very clear. I'm showing this to my ideal customer, my ideal user. So from the ideal user, I got this feedback. I'm not going to show this to a student. Or I'm not going to show this to someone who, is not a working Canadian. And so I'm looking at it, getting the feedback, and someone said to me, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So I'm thinking to myself, how do I help you wrap your head around it? Right. And so this is the latest version. Then you want a secret sauce slide. Okay. A unique insight. What makes us different? And so I say, here's a secret sauce. And so it's in our meetings. And so we have monthly meeting, mandatory weekly member meetings, and financial partner meetings. And I get feedback. And that's when I see the feedback, the light bulbs are going off, the aha moments. And people come to me and say, so I'm looking for the feedback, and generally speaking, people say, oh, I've seen these programs before, but nobody's combining the emotional literacy with the financial literacy. And no one's actually looking at this as a unique way of looking at it. Makes me different because I don't want to go out if this isn't a small business, this is a startup. I'm designing something that I want to completely disrupt the way that, other fintechs or other financial models or banks or traditional financial institutions are trying to solve this problem. I'm being different. I'm saying contrarian, using contrarian mindset. The reason, and I'm demonstrating that I'm working myself through the idea maze, the reason it's not working, despite all the efforts and all the money that's been put into programs for financial literacy and what have you, I'm explaining that everybody else is missing something. I have an investment thesis. I have an assumption that our meeting format is the difference. Here's the business model. So I just explained how we're going to make money. It's just straightforward. So how we make money, we're charging everybody this amount, et cetera. So it's just very straightforward in terms of the business model. So how you make money is an important slide in idea validation deck. Then I added this, the big why, because I was getting lots of feedback and people were saying, why would anybody agree to fund this venture? And why would anybody agree to participate in this and help us out? And so I added a slide. Now, this isn't a slide that I'm going to pitch from. If I was pitching this live, I'd probably just have the first 2 sentences there, and I would give the narrative, right? So I'd probably just have this on a slide, and if I was pitching this slide, but I want people to read this, right? Remember, I want this deck to stand on its own as people read it versus me having to pitch it. So our financial partners, our social impact investors, et cetera, the big why. Again, I added this slide not from the beginning. I added it. My deck was as small and thin as possible. I added it because this question kept coming up. So I'm just going to address it before it comes up, because if I can get ahead of their minds and say, I know you're probably thinking this reason I have this slide, they just have more confidence that you've thought this through. Then finally, this is the why I'm the founder. So I've got some bullet points, accolades for me as the general partner to show I have domain expertise. Like, if anybody's going to figure it out, I've got the domain expertise to come up with the solution. And then that's it. That is literally as simple as it gets. So let me just reiterate. Before I build anything, I create an idea validation deck. Before I spend a single dollar, before I incorporate, I do an idea validation deck. And I run my idea validation decks on weekly cycles. I do one, and I work as quick as possible and get something out. So I'll spend like a couple hours doing an idea validation deck, and then I'll send it out to my first group of ideal customers or users or the people that I want to participate or I trust their advice, and then get feedback. And then I spin it again. So I'm getting feedback through the week, and then the week after, I spin up another one and I send it out again. And sometimes it's going to the same people and sometimes not. The individuals I did customer discovery with, so we had conversations, we had meetings where I asked them about finances and what goes through your mind and etc. They got the first round of the idea validation deck. So you've helped me with customer discovery, and now I'm going to do idea validation deck with you. And guess what? I've already got people saying, sign me up, put me in for this amount, etc. And I may go to investor. In this case, I don't need an investor. I'm going to bootstrap it, but may go to investor and say, I've already got, 100 people signed up, ready to do this type thing. So there's how I go about it. Now, I keep everybody posted during my idea validation, etc., because later on, they're going to refer me to other advisors, potential investors. So I'm working the network. The more that people that join me on this idea validation process, the more they're going to be emotionally invested and participate and either become users or advocates, and be connectors for me. I just continue just building those networks and getting them involved. And I ask everybody along the way, do you mind if I just keep you posted on all the different milestones and what's happening? I made it very easy. And as I said, it's worked out pretty well so far. I've got some people buying in. I've got some heavy hitters that are going to be subject matter experts, technical experts to come on my advisory board, and everybody's buying into the idea. And then when I send this out, like I told you, that this has got to work without me having to pitch it all the time. So I'm going to send this out next. I'm going to put a PDF version. I'm going to say, all right, if you guys think it's good, send it out to your next group. And I'd love some feedback from them. And all you have to do is say, hey, I got this buddy of mine. He's crazy. He's a founder and he wants to do this startup. And he just wanted feedback from other people. I'd like your opinion. What do you think? And if I can get them to share it and they're willing to share it, well, this all just sets up for the hyper growth, the word of mouth that's necessary, that I'm building something that people are into. And the more people that get out there, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And later on, I may add like a landing page and I say, if you're interested, go put in your email address in this landing page. And I'm not there yet, but I just keep spinning it up all before I build anything. When I do want to build something, I've already got a team thinking about it. We're just going to start with spreadsheets. So I've tasked someone on my team to say, what's this spreadsheet look like? How simple can we make this? I don't want to do any coding. I don't want to hire a dev shop. Don't need to hire a programmer. It's going to be simple spreadsheets. And if I can't put out something in a simple spreadsheet and, at least do one small cycle of this, like landing page to spreadsheet to figure out how it would work, then I'm ahead of my skis, if you will. I probably shouldn't be building it unless I'm ready to chunk in. I've got the budget for $50,000 or $75,000 any custom coding. The moral of the story is I never build MVPs that are out of my capacity. I know founders that are thinking about building MVPs and they're going to need like $100,000. Well, how are you going to raise something? And with inevitably everybody hits this stage where they say, well, I'm not going to give you money to invest unless I can see it in action. Well, then what do? Well, you have to build a simple MVP within your own capacity, because do you really want to delay and have to raise money to build an MVP? And raising money without an MVP is super hard anyway. So you're going to have to be finding those magical investors who totally believe in you. Now, some people have that. You got a grandmother who's been putting money aside on a rainy day and is willing to, give you some YOLO their money away. But I don't live in that world, and I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to just take money and spend that money to figure out whether my idea is valid or not. So do your idea validation decks. Very simple to do, very simple format. And you start up black and white, problem, solution, how it works, special sauce, TAM in there, and then, why you're qualified in the team. And then as you get more and more traction with your idea validation deck and you're starting to see this pattern, then you start adding graphics and turn into video, add the landing pages, and go to town. That's how you do it. Real simple, low risk way to do, build a potentially very disruptive startup. So there you have it. I hope that's been helpful. Join us at the startups.com online community accelerator. We're a community of founders accelerating other founders. If you're already part of the community and you're watching this and you made it this far to the end of the video, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. That means a lot to me. Leave questions, comments. Let me know if you have any questions or other topics you'd like to talk to. And then you can always join me and our other advisors at startups.com for regular office hours, and just join the community, be a part of what we're doing. Appreciate you watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.